Today we're going to talk about the Vendo 721. This happens to be a Coca-Cola 3D Viz machine, but we also build this in a Coca-Cola Chameleon. Outside of a few specific door parts, both machines are exactly the same and use the same parts. On the front door, we have what we call a quicker lock. If you put a little pressure on the door, 5 half turns, and the door is open. In order to close the door, we recommend you push the door to. You have a refrigeration seal, and now a turn and a half is all we need to close the door. This is the Vendo 12.6 control board for a Coca-Cola machine. If you'll notice, we have a blinking red light here on the control board. The blinking red light tells you the control board is good. If you were to get a different color, possibly a yellow, that could mean the control board was bad. Or if the light becomes solid, you have a solid red light, that could indicate a bad control board. If you have no light at all, that could indicate a bad control board or no power to the control board. So you would trace the power back down through your 24-volt transformer. The plug with the 2 orange wires right here, the 2 orange wires are coming from your 24-volt transformer, supplying power to the board. If you were to check these 2 orange wires, you should have 24 volts AC on these 2 orange wires. This is also a place that you can unplug power from the machines. Some of the Vendo machines are equipped with a power switch down by the compressor by the fuse box. Some machines do not have that power switch, so if you need to discontinue power to plug in a changer or bill validator or even the new LED lights, you need to power down before replacing them. You can pull the plug right here with the 2 orange wires. In order to put power back on the machine, you simply plug it back up. On the inner door, we have several decals. This decal here is your service and programming functions. It shows you that it is standard 4-button programming. Button 1 is your escape button. Button 2 will scroll you down. Button 3 scrolls you back up. 4 is your enter and save button. Shows you all your modes on the main menu and all your sub modes that you can enter into. Have a wiring diagram here in the center. You have a space to sales map right here that shows you the different selections. This machine is set to an 8 select machine, which was right here. You have different selections all the way over to number 2. If you were to set this machine for all one product, maybe a water machine in the summertime, you would set it on option 2 and it would program all buttons to all columns, and that way the machine would sell down evenly. Over here you have a diagnostic map for all your error codes. It gives you the error code in the left column here. It gives you the description of the error code and how to clear the error code on this side. On this machine, if you need to manually clear an error code after you've entered into diagnostics and your error code comes up, you can press and hold button 4 for 2 seconds and you manually clear the error code out. On the inner door, we have the product setup and loading instructions. To set up this machine from cans to 20-ounce bottles or products similar in size, you have a 3-step process. Number 1, you would set your backspacer to the desired depth. Number 2, underneath the stack, we have what we call a product slide. It's built into each one of the column walls on the right-hand side of the column. The product slide slides up for shorter products such as cans and back for larger products such as 20-ounce bottles. Number 3, we would go to the control board, and under a section called depth set, we would tell the machine that we want to vend 1, 2, 3, or 4 deep. We would get the machine completely set up. Loading the machine with bottles, you can load bottles neck in. You can also load bottles butt to butt. Bottles could even be loaded neck out if it's absolutely necessary. We have 1 shim listed here for smaller diameter products that would be smaller diameter than a 12-ounce can. You would need a shim to vend those type of products. On the cabinet side, first thing we'd like to talk about is the back side to the quicker lock. It's mounted here on the cabinet. It's actually a 3-piece nut segment with a spring and a cap located right here. It's also on a floating, so there is no alignment necessary for the lock. In the stack, we have slides. Delivery people would slide this up. They would load the bottom portion of the stack, slide this down. On the inner door, we have a rack. It has 2 wires. When the door is closed, it holds the top portion of the bottled product in the stack. Underneath the stack that we talked about a minute ago, the second step into setting up the product is the product slide. Right here it slides up for cans and back for bottles, and there's one built in each one of the column walls. We have a loading rack right here for the delivery drivers. To remove the loading rack, simply lift up and slide it out. 2 screws on the mech cover. The mech cover comes off, exposing your Vend motors. We have no cams, no switches, no sold out on this model because, as we discussed before, the control board is controlling the movement of the Vend motors. In order to remove a motor and bucket from the Vend mechanism, you would unplug your 2-pin plug from the motor. You have 2 screws on the motor. Remove the 2 screws. Motor slips off. You have a bucket coupler. Remove the bucket coupler, and the entire bucket is off in your hand. Keep in mind that the only product that would come out with the bucket would be what is actually in the bucket, because Vendo uses a blocking gate system that lets all the product rest on a blocking gate right here, so the entire stack can be loaded and you can remove the motor and the bucket without ever unloading the stack. The blocking gate actually has a lock on it, so you can't push it up. You actually have to push it up and over to let product out of the stack. So there's no chance that the stack would empty while you have the bucket out. Once you have the bucket out, we talked about the product slide in each one of the column walls. The product slide would slide forward for shorter product, back for longer product, because the indentation in the bucket is designed for a longer 20-ounce type product to roll out. So in this scenario, once you've got it set, the control board will tell the bucket to roll over, drop a product, back home. Drop a product, back home. Home position for this bucket is always like this, with the bottom facing down. After the bucket's dropped its last product, it will catch the blocking gate, open it, let product drop on the side of the bucket rolls over, product falls in the bucket and reloads. When replacing the bucket, in the back wall of the mechanism, there's a bushing. The bushing fits over the bucket on this side. So in order to replace the bucket, put it in the back wall. You have the bucket coupler. The bucket coupler only goes on one way, so there's no chance to get this machine out of time. After that, the Vend motor goes on, slides up in the slot. It doesn't slide all the way up. You can compare it to the motor next. It goes on, snaps back in place. Replace your 2 screws and plug your motor back up. In the delivery chute, we have a drop sensor. This is how the machine knows it has vended a product and cancels the credit. The drop sensor is mounted underneath the delivery chute. It's actually a two-sided drop sensor. It has 2 wires going to it. The reason for the 2 sides is if one side of the drop sensor goes bad, you should get an error code saying you have a bad drop sensor. But the other side picks up and continues to let the machine work. If both sides of the drop sensor go bad, it will completely shut the machine down. It kills all power to the Vend motors, and even in test mode, the Vend motors will not run. In order to test your drop sensor, earlier we talked about this blinking red light on the control board. If I tapped the drop sensor and you were looking at that light would turn green. So every time I tap the drop sensor to simulate a product being vended, the light on the control board will turn green. Once you've removed the delivery chute, you can clearly see the drop sensor we were talking about. It's mounted with 2 rivets. It also has foam pads that fit underneath the actual sensors, so when you replace this, the sensors are secure. The delivery chute has 2 tabs on the back that actually fit into the back wall to secure it to the machine. When replacing the chute, line your front of the chute up with the 2 screws. These tabs should slide in the back wall. That should put the delivery chute flush with the back wall. So after you've got it in, there should be enough room between the Vend mechanism and the delivery chute for you to run your fingers across the machine. While we have the delivery chute out, you can clearly see the evaporator section. You can also see the temperature sensor. It's mounted on a little tab right here in the airflow. Plugs in over on the left, mounted here. The evaporator, the unit. If you were to need to change a unit in this machine, you have 1 screw in the base of the unit here, 2 screws over here on the plug where the lines come through the cabinet, and 8 screws on the evaporator right here. The entire unit slides out as one piece. The other unit's replaced. When replacing the delivery chute, make sure that you plug back in the drop sensor. The Bolex plug right there. Make sure you have a good connection. It's a 24-volt system. Any loose wires could cause an issue. While we're in this area, you have a door switch. 2 wires going to the door switch. The door switch controls the lighting, the refrigeration, the evaporator fan. Because with Vendo, once we open the door, we turn the lights off, we turn the compressor off, and we turn the evaporator off. Behind here, you have 3 relays, 1 for the lights, 1 for the compressor, and 1 for the evaporator. You also have a 0.8 slow blow fuse right here that's in the 24-volt circuit. If you were to need to check your compressor or check your lights of the relay, you can do so by pushing the door switch in, or you can actually pull the wire on the right hand side here, the front pole, and will allow the door switch to turn the lights and the compressor on. Always remember to replace your wire. To enter programming on the 12.6 control board, there's a mode button located in the lower portion of the control board. By punching the mode button 1 time, diagnostics will appear in the LED readout on the front of the machine. The front of the machine, we're using 4-button programming. Button 1, button 2, button 3, and button 4. 1 is escape, 2 scrolls you up, 3 scrolls you down, 4 is the enter and save button. Under test mode relays, we can enter in. It allows us to check the relays for the compressor, for the light, for the fan, and for the heater. Heaters will be used in the northern part of the United States and in Canada. If I move to light, for example, and enter into with button 4 and change it to on, we'll hear the relay click in the bottom and the light to come on. If I enter on and turn it off, we're back out. We can do the same thing for the fan, for the heater if we have one, and for the compressor. So under test mode, we can check the Vend motors. We can also vend the product down on the initial fill. We can jog a motor if we need to. We can test the display, the switches, and the relays. Back out to the main menu. We enter our password, 42314. It allows us to get our cache data off the machine, get our sales data off the machine, or set price. If we enter in the set price with button 4, it's going to ask all selections. We enter again. We're able to run up the price, run it back down with button 3, and always save with button 4. From that point, button 2 will scroll you down through individual selections should you need to make a change to one or more selections. Button 1 back out, correct change only, set depth. This is the third step in the setup procedure. We enter into it. Right now this machine is set on all columns to vend 2 deep. If you hit button 4, it allows you to change to 3, 4, 1, 2, and always save with button 4. Button 2 will allow you to scroll down through the individual columns should you need to make a change to one or more columns. Button 1, configurations. Configurations in this machine are mainly just on and off instead of con 1 and con 2. So multi-price, it's asking, do we want it on or do we want it off? Timing features. If you were to use timing features in this machine to set the lighting or temperature or blocking features, you would need to turn timing features on under configurations. Door summary. Having door summary turned on, the machine will give you meter readings for your sales and your cash every time the door is opened. Save credit timer. This machine has a feature that should somebody place money in the machine and not make a selection for 5 minutes, the machine will automatically cancel the credit and the machine will go back to working. Force vend, multi-vend, bill escrow. If you'll notice, the display says deny bill escrow. If you want your escrow to work, the dollar bill to be deposited and returned upon use of the coin return, you will need to turn bill escrow off. If you want the dollar bill to stack immediately and coins to be dispensed upon the coin return being pushed, you would turn deny bill escrow on. Display scroll, multi-price. Button 1 brings you back out. Button 2 will scroll you to space to sales. If we enter into it, this is set on option 8, which is an 8 select machine. But you can move it to 9, 10, custom if you want to customize the machine. Back to number 8 and always save it. Password, you can set language. Refrigeration, there's several things under refrigeration, but the first thing is set point. Set point is 36 degrees. If you enter into it, it will allow an 8-degree swing, 4 degrees up, 4 degrees down, but we recommend you leave it at the set point of 36 degrees. Display temperature, this allows for your temperature to be displayed on the front of the machine while the machine is in standby mode. Sensor reading, 48 degrees at the temp sensor mounted underneath the delivery chute. Override, return, back to diagnostics. On the Vendo V21 series, during the initial fill, the buckets can be primed through the test vend mode. In the test vend mode, you would prime each one of the buckets to fill with product, and the machine would be ready for the consumer to use. If that step is not taken, during the vend process, the consumer will deposit money, the bucket will roll over, nothing will contact the drop sensor, the bucket will come back, load itself, and give the consumer their drink. During that process, it will take about 7 seconds for the consumer to get the drink. After that, the buckets are primed, and the vend time should be 1 to 2 seconds on each drink. This finishes the demonstration on the Vendo V21. We want to thank you for your time, and should you have any questions or need future help, you can always call the 800 number at 1-800-344-7216.